Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people stayed in market. That's why people come here because of the amount of money that companies.
Welcome back to Ballgorithm USA, the home for true hoop heads and WNBA believers. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we don't just watch games, we break them down inside and out. Today, we're diving into a wild one. No Caitlin Clark? No problem. The Indiana Fever, rocking their Stranger Things jerseys, pulled off a show-stealing performance against the Las Vegas Aces, proving that this team is more than just one name. It's a full system ready to explode. Indiana came into this one with a statement to make. The offense was on fire, even in Caitlin Clark's absence, putting up 84 points against a Vegas squad that wasn't ready for the storm. The Fever didn't just survive without Clark. They thrived. And a huge reason for that was the lights-out performance from Sophie Cunningham, who nailed 5 threes and made her mark in her very first night with Indiana. It wasn't just about the shots falling. It was about how she found those looks, reading staggered screens, picking the right angles, slipping into open windows, and letting it fly with confidence. From the beginning, Indiana played smart, strategic basketball. They took advantage of mismatches, converting their guards to the block and forcing Vegas to defend uncomfortably with a smaller backcourt. Cunningham's off-ball movement was elite, and that rhythm quickly spread to the rest of the team. Ari McDonald tried to keep the Aces close, hitting an early three and showcasing her elite quickness. But Indiana's response was sharp. McDonald found Boston on a clean entry, and the rookie center delivered. Left alone near the rim, Boston showed her soft touch and perfect timing to get the roll. But it wasn't just the bigs dominating. Mitchell, Indiana's steady hand, went into takeover mode. With the shot clock winding down, she attacked off the dribble, powered through contact, and finished strong. That bucket didn't just beat the buzzer, it sent a message. The depth of the Fever was on full display, as Lexi Hull checked in and immediately made an impact on the defensive end. The team nearly lost possession on a chaotic sequence, but they recovered, moved the ball with poise, and ended the possession with a score, showing composure that used to elude this young squad. Then came Kirsten Bell, bringing energy and versatility off the bench. Her minutes this season have been clutch, and she stayed true to form here. The ball movement was relentless. Coulson curled off a screen, handed it off mid-motion to a cutting Howard, who knifed through the paint for the finish. These weren't accidental looks. This was chemistry in motion. When Vegas tried to push back, Cunningham silenced the run with another dead-eye triple. Coulson, ever the floor general, worked the offense like a conductor, and Aliyah Boston re-entered the mix with presence. She spun off her defender in the post, surveyed the floor, and zipped a pass out to Mitchell. At the wing, splash. That was basketball IQ on full display. Rather than force a contested look, Boston made the smart read and trusted her teammate. The Fever weren't just winning, they were clicking. Natasha Howard ran the break like a guard, gliding across the court with long, smooth strides, drawing defenders and dishing with precision. Coulson hit a three off the next action. Then Boston stepped out and drilled one herself. And just like that, Indiana had the Aces chasing shadows. Mitchell continued to punish switches, especially when paired in two-woman actions with Boston at the top of the key. One moment, she was freezing defenders off the bounce. The next, she was feeding Howard wide open at the arc. Vegas tried to adjust, but Indiana kept executing. Coulson turned a corner with a slip screen, didn't even need to dribble, and floated to the rim for the easy two. That's high-level execution, minimal movement, maximum reward. Vegas attempted to counter with aggressive switching, trying to disrupt the Fever's screen-heavy actions. But that strategy backfired. Indiana kept finding open shooters, and Howard capitalized again, draining a clean three. The Aces went cold from the field, going just 4 of 19 before briefly waking up with back-to-back makes. But even then, the Fever had control. Coulson stayed aggressive, hunting mid-range space and hitting clean looks. McDonald returned with her, jitterbug style, slicing through defenders to get into the paint. But Indiana's help defense stayed disciplined. No easy looks, no lazy rotations, just consistent effort. Then Howard stepped up again, this time driving with her left, finishing through traffic and drawing the foul. That's power and finesse rolled into one. With space and time, she's nearly unstoppable one-on-one. The Fever sensed it. Mitchell cleared the side, isolated Howard, and let her go to work. It was beautiful. As Vegas looked for answers, Cunningham delivered yet again. Another smooth three from the top of the arc. Her confidence was contagious, the kind of shooting that bends defenses and opens up the whole playbook. McDonald tried to push the pace for Vegas, sprinting coast to coast for a late half attack. No whistle. But once again, the hustle play belonged to Indiana. Loose ball, Mitchell was there. She recovered, shook her defender, and danced her way to the rim. Her finishing instincts and leadership on full display. Indiana's halftime lead wasn't built on luck. It was built on movement, trust and balance. Everyone was involved, everyone was locked in, and most impressively, they were doing it without Caitlin Clark. No superstar bailout needed, just pure collective execution. This was a different Indiana team. They weren't just playing with energy, they were playing with purpose. And this Stranger Things themed night became symbolic. Something strange really was happening in Indiana. They were becoming a threat. A deep, well-coached, unselfish squad that didn't care who was missing. They showed up to hoop. As the third quarter tipped off, everything shifted. Indiana came out of the locker room with a different energy, a hardened edge that hadn't quite been there in the first half. The message from Coach Christie's sides at halftime was brutally clear. You're playing soft. There were no excuses, no sugarcoating, just a challenge. And the Fever responded with fire. Vegas had gotten whatever they wanted in the second quarter. The tempo had tilted, the defense had sagged, and Indiana momentarily lost their grip on the game. But when the third quarter began, it was a completely different story. Indiana's defense set the tone, and their offense followed. They outscored Las Vegas 27-15 in that third frame, but the scoreboard only told part of the story. The real difference was in attitude, in intensity, in how every single possession was approached like it meant something. The Fever swarmed the aces on. Every touch. Passing lanes vanished. Drives were met with brick wall contests. Post entries were denied before the ball could even make it in. Indiana was no longer reacting. They were dictating. Natasha Howard led the charge. Her presence was felt everywhere. Whether it was gobbling up offensive rebounds, flying into passing lanes, or digging into post defense, Howard's impact was massive. In just one quarter, the third, she racked up a double-double, pulling in offensive boards and snatching 3 steals in the process. But stats alone can't describe it. This wasn't just a performance. It was a takeover. She set the tone defensively, and her teammates followed. You could feel the trust build with every rotation, every closeout. Communication was crisp. Effort was relentless. The Fever didn't just make stops. They turned those stops into transition opportunities, into second chance points, into momentum. On offense, the execution was just as sharp. Indiana moved with purpose. They flowed through screens, reversed the ball with patience, and attacked when the gaps opened. Kelsey Mitchell continued to do what she does best, slicing through the defense, drawing attention, and hitting tough shots. But the scoring wasn't limited to one player. Aliyah Boston stayed aggressive, using her footwork to get deep position, while Sophie Cunningham's spacing continued to stretch the Vegas defense beyond comfort. The Fever's energy never dipped. They kept their foot on the gas, and Vegas struggled to match it. Defensive stops led to quick runouts. Rebounds turned into lead passes. The Fever didn't slow the game down to manage the lead. They sped it up to grow it. And that's where the biggest evolution in this team showed. Indiana didn't just play a good quarter, they stayed locked in through the fourth. That kind of consistency had been preached all season long, It was the difference between wins and lessons, between flashes and growth. And now, it was finally showing. For Natasha Howard, the fourth quarter was personal. She continued to lead with her defense, switching onto guards, walling up inside, chasing rebounds out of her zone. Her intensity ignited her teammates. Every time she contested a shot or jumped a pass, the bench roared. It wasn't just her production, it was her example, her leadership. She said it clearly after the game. It all started with defense. When she locks in on that end, the team follows. Her defensive energy is contagious, and it's what kept the Fever alive through tough stretches. Vegas kept searching for answers, trying to isolate, trying to get Wilson more touches, trying to get spacing on the perimeter. But Indiana just rotated, recovered, and suffocated them. Even when Vegas found daylight, Indiana didn't panic. They closed out hard, rebounded as a unit, and pushed back. Whether it was Lexi Hull grabbing a tough board in traffic or Colson diving for a loose ball, every possession mattered. The Fever weren't just defending their lead, and they were earning it. This second half wasn't just about outscoring the Aces. It was about growing up. It was about proving that this team could play with discipline, intensity, and togetherness, no matter who was on the court. And all of it, every play, every adjustment, was made without Caitlin Clark in uniform. That's the statement. So much of the season had revolved around Clark, and rightfully so. She's a generational talent. But this win showed that Indiana is deeper than one name, that the system is working, that the culture is forming, that players like Natasha Howard, Kelsey Mitchell, Aliyah Boston, Sophie Cunningham, they're building something sustainable. Howard's words after the game said it all. She talked about how the team finally stayed consistent, how they'd been talking about it all season. And now it was real. No let-ups, no drops in energy, just focus, just toughness. And she was proud. You could hear it in her voice. This wasn't just another win. It was their first victory after the All-Star break, and it mattered. These are the games that start defining a season, that start separating playoff teams from the rest, and Howard knew it. She said it best. This is the time to lock in. This is the time to prepare for the postseason. These games count. Vegas walked off frustrated, outplayed, and outworked. They had been caught flat-footed by a team that refused to bend. A team that had found a new gear without its most famous player. A team that had the guts to respond to a coach's challenge and then the talent to back it up. Indiana left the court fired up, not with celebration, but with focus. This wasn't the final step. This was just the next one. But it was a big one. They had proven something important, that they can win ugly, that they can win gritty, that they can dominate a second half by simply outworking and outplaying a championship caliber roster. And that when the lights are bright and the pressure is high, they don't fold. They rise. Outro. Ballgorithm USA. If you enjoyed this breakdown and you believe in the power of real basketball analysis, make sure to like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts, and most importantly, subscribe to Ballgorithm USA. This is where real hoops conversations happen. We're tracking every key game, every clutch moment, and every rising star in the WNBA. The Fever are making noise, and we're here for all of it. Stay locked in, because this ride is just getting started. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep watching, keep learning, and keep loving the game.